Hi, I'm Hawken with TOPDON, and today we're going to walk through the TOPDON Phoenix Lite 2, TOPDON's newest, lowest cost, bidirectional control scan tool. So we're going to walk through the tool in reverse order here. We'll go through each menu option so that you can get a feel for what is available on the tool for your use. First thing we're going to do is go to the User Info button. This menu is going to show us a number of different options. We're going to scroll all the way to the bottom here, and we're going to go to the Settings, and then we're going to scroll to the bottom, and we're going to walk you through each option one by one. Log out is going to be used if you would like to log out of the tool and prevent other people from using it without your email and password. Restore factory settings is used if you need to wipe the tool of all data before you sell the tool. Typically speaking, this is not something you're going to use unless either support asks you to do it, or again, if you are going to be selling the tool. USB connection mode allows you to set the tool up to be connected to a computer for retrieval of files. So for instance, videos or pictures that you would like to take off of the tool and batch upload them to your computer, you would switch it to device mode instead of host mode. Clear cache. Clear cache is something that you can do periodically to speed up the speed of the tool. Usually not something you will have to do. Sometimes support might ask you to do that. We're not going to do that today, as there is nothing needed on this tool with regards to that. T-code, that is used for updating the tool if you need to redeem a software upgrade card. That's the menu you do that in. Time zone allows you to change the time zone that you're in on the tool to the correct time zone for your area. Language. Language allows you to change the language of the tool. There are a number of languages available, including Spanish, English, and a number of others. Units. Units allows you to change between metric and imperial units of measurement on the tool. Now, it's important to remember that sometimes this modification will not affect OEM scan data. So if you're in manufacturer-specific scan data, sometimes it will not change from metric to imperial or vice versa. It will stay in the manufacturer-specific measurements unit. About. About is the main screen that allows us to check the system for updates, set our sleep time for the tool, view the privacy policy, and upgrade the system. Now we're back on the previous screen. Settings was where we were. Screen recorder. Screen recorder is used to view any screen recordings that you have done on the tool. You can always record screen recordings by going into the tool and setting up screen record when you are in the data stream of the tool. Photo album. Photo album is where you can view any photos taken with the tool, whether that's a screenshot or something you took with the camera on the front of the tool. Diagnostic record. Diagnostic record allows you to see all of the different vehicles that you have been connected to. You can also quick access connect to those vehicles again if you wish to do so. So this is helpful if you want to get back into a vehicle quickly that you have previously worked on. You can also tap on it and see any kind of reports that you may have saved on the vehicle. You can delete these as well if you wish. Customer management. Customer management allows you to input customer data. If you happen to be a mobile technician and you're working on multiple different customers' vehicles, maybe different shops, you might want to enter in the shop information so that you can assign each scanned vehicle to a given shop that you work with. If you are working at an individual shop on numerous customers' vehicles, you may not want to use customer management, as this may require a lot of work to put in the data on every customer that you have in your database. Now, you certainly can if you wish, but most people probably won't. Business information allows you to change any of your information on your shop, as you can see right here. Diagnostic software clear allows you to remove any software that you do not use on the tool. So if there's any brand of vehicle in your area, for instance, like Abarth is not used in North America, we can hide that software. We can also remove that software. So we can go into the menu and look for different things that we'd like to get rid of. So we kind of scroll down. Brilliance is another one not used in North America. So we could delete those from the tool. We can also go down, and now you can see they're hidden as well. So that allows you to save some additional space on the tool if you want. Wi-Fi allows you to change your Wi-Fi settings or set up your Wi-Fi if you have not so far. Change password allows you to change your password for the tool. So that's your login for the tool itself, which again is how you can protect your tool from being used by others. If you log out of the tool when you use it and you don't want someone else to use it, they will not be able to get into it unless they have the ability to, number one, your password, or number two, the email that you send your password to if you reset it. So this is where you can reset it if you do need to. Scrolling up a little farther here, profile. Profile allows you to change some of the basics about your profile on the tool. So the nickname, the gender, and the email all can be set right here. Data stream sample is where you can see any data stream data that you have saved to the tool. Regardless of which vehicle you saved it on, you can always find it here. Fix MDCI firmware. You can do this if you're having any issues communicating with your dongle. Activate MDCI. This is where you will activate your dongle when you first receive the tool. So you will have a password activation card that will have the serial number for the dongle and an activation code. You will type that in and then hit activate, and it will activate the dongle to your tool. We can see here there is already a dongle that's been activated to this tool. We can tap on it here and see all the information about when it was activated, what its serial number is, and whether or not it's currently working. So this completes the basic settings menu under user info. You can also shortcut to that by hitting the gear. So the gear in the top right or the user info in the bottom right. Now we're going to continue backwards here. Coverage list. Coverage list allows us to look up coverage to see whether or not a specific function is covered by the tool on a given vehicle. You can also view a coverage list on TOPDON.us. Feedback. Feedback allows you to send any kind of feedback or bug reports if your tool fails to perform a function, does not perform a function correctly, or is missing a function. So if you have something that wasn't working correctly, you can go in here, you can select whatever brand vehicle it was. It's important to remember that the tool will only store up to 20 records. So you want to make sure to send in your feedback regularly so that any kind of issues you've had are still on the tool before you go to submit the log. So if you had an error, you can go in and select the vehicle manufacturer you worked on. Then you can find a feedback log by hitting choose file in the top right, and you'll see that you have some different files available, and you can select any of them that you think might be relevant. Then you can choose what kind of a problem it was. And then you want to put in a description of what the problem was here. After you've done that, you want to put in your email or phone number, add any screenshots that you took, and any data stream files that you may have recorded, and then submit the result. That information will then go to our engineers, which will allow them to correct errors on the tool and fill in things that might be missing. So it's important to remind yourself to do your feedback on a regular basis, as this is continuously improving the tool for both you and all other users. History. History allows us to go back in and view any vehicles that we have been connected to with this particular tool. So you can tap on it, and you can see any relevant data that you have stored on that vehicle, whether it's a picture, data stream sample, diagnostic report, or you can view them all at once. So very helpful that you have access to this. You'll see there's some other buttons here that you can tap on for interactiveness if there's anything else. So customer management is basically what you're looking at there, and there's nothing there because we did not fill anything in. Diagnostic report also lets you see a master list of your diagnostic reports, and that's history. Library. Library allows us to see a handful of different links. We can shortcut to Facebook, we can shortcut to YouTube, we can shortcut to Chrome. Learning materials basically just shows you some basic information about special functions. OBD fault code library allows you to look up basic OBD2 fault code definitions. I personally don't find need for that most of the time because typically the service information will have this, but you're welcome to look in there if you would like to do that. Update. Update is where you can check your tool for updated software. Now you can see there's a number of different updates available for my tool. Now, it's important to keep in mind you do have to have an active, valid subscription in order to be able to update your tool. If your subscription has expired, contact your local dealer or your preferred online dealer. Make sure they are an authorized TOPDON dealer, and they should be able to sell you an update for your tool. Now, the updates are by year, so when you get a year's worth of updates, that means you will continue to get updates throughout the entire year. And of course, that's wonderful because the tool is always being upgraded and improved, and it is important that you do keep your tool up to date. Now, it's also nice to note that you can update your tool in the background. So, if you want to update the tool while you're doing other functions, you can let it continue to update in the background. It's kind of a nice feature that a lot of tools do not let you do. Support. Support is where you can go to have remote control. So, if you have another technician who is a friend, and you would like them to log into your tool and see what you're seeing, you can give them your TeamViewer ID. They can then log into your tool and see exactly what your tool is doing and remote control your tool. So this is very helpful if you have another friend who's maybe more experienced, or maybe you are the more experienced friend and you want to help somebody else. If they have this tool, or any of the other TOPDON tools that have TeamViewer on them, you will be able to get their partner ID and you can log into their tool and remote communicate. Battery tester. This allows you to use the battery tester application with the TOPDON BT Mobile Pro S. The BT Mobile Pro S is available and you can purchase it separately, and then you can generate starting, charging system, and battery tests with your BT Mobile Pro S and record them on your tool, which allows you then to send them to your customers and keep them for your own records. Now remember, swiping from either side of the screen, like this, will allow you to go back. Just like that. So that's your battery tester. Services. This menu gets you to all of your hot function service resets. So whether that's throttle body reset, power window reset, odometer correction, EGR reset, anything of that nature, all of those scan tool resets can be found through the services menu. However, you will often find these also available through an additional menu in the scan menu or AutoScan menu, which we will walk you through next. AutoScan. AutoScan is generally what you're going to do on most vehicles. The tool will query the vehicle for the VIN number. Once it obtains the VIN number, it will connect to the internet and it will verify what the vehicle is, and then it will perform a full identification. You can see here it has grabbed the VIN and it has identified the vehicle correctly. So you have two options from here. local diagnosis and quick access. Quick access is going to be used if you just want to go straight into a module and perform a given function and you don't want to scan all the modules. That's what quick access is used for. Local diagnosis is what you're going to do on the majority of vehicles you're working on. So now we're into the vehicle options menu here once we did system scan. So we have a number of different options from here. Now this is because it's a Volkswagen, we have more options than we would on a lot of other vehicles. Volkswagen and Audi, you will have access to additional functions that you will not find on other vehicles. Now, the options you will find on other vehicles: system scan, health report, system selection, special function. On many of the European vehicles, you may find additional features like online function, and sometimes on Asian vehicles as well, you will also find the online function. Guided function is something that is specific to Volkswagen and Audi. And there's a few other options here which you will not use in North America. The VW Crafter light trucks and the maintain information has some additional information that you can look at, such as channel information. So we'll go in here, for instance. You can look at basic settings and adaptations that are available for some of these modules under the channel information. Diagnostic procedures. This is a pretty cool shortcut for Volkswagen and Audi. So if you do have like this vehicle here is a 163 Jetta, you can go in and you can look at procedures that are published. There's coding information. There's a coding table here that shows you all the different possible codings for the module. And there's also login information, which is a password to get into the module. So that's what you'll find under that maintain menu. Basically just a database of additional information that you can look at. And that was maintain information. So pretty cool extra feature, again, you'll see on Volkswagen and Audi. Now, we're going to go through just the normal health report. This is what you're going to do on the vast majority of vehicles if you want to verify if there are codes in any modules. And you'll give the tool just a little bit of time here to scan the full vehicle. Okay, so we've completed the health report. We can see here that we have a number of different modules that we were successful in scanning. And we do have green across the board, so there are no fault codes. From this menu, we can clear all DTCs or we can generate a report. The report is essentially going to be, you can do either pre-scan, post-scan, or diagnostic scan. Label it as you see fit. And then you'll have the option to modify anything here if you need to and put in notes if you wish. So then you're going to get to put in all of your information. And after we've done that, now we can see that we've got our report. And the report has generated here. And now you have a nice report that you can send to your customer, which shows all the information that you collected with the tool when you did a DTC scan. If you have a DTC, you can press on the little buttons here to look at. You can also open the report. And when you open the report, this is what your customer will see when you email it to them. Now, a wonderful feature here is you do also have access to a QR code, which you can scan with your phone, and that gives you the URL to this exact report. And then you can send that URL to anybody or any computer if you wish. You can send it via text message, email, whatever it might be, and that URL will take that customer directly to this report, and it will be displayed just like this. So really helpful, really a great feature. You can also share the report right from here and send it via email, which is typically what you're going to do in most cases. But you do again have that QR code, which allows you to do that as well. From this menu, you can also enter into any module. Now, it's important to note that if you have any modules that are missing from here that the vehicle should be equipped with, that may be because it was not able to communicate with those modules. If it does not communicate with those modules, you should have fault codes in other modules that normally talk to the module that's not communicating. That's typically going to be the case. But just remember, this is only going to show you results from modules that can communicate currently. You can also enter into modules from this menu. You can see right here we've got the information on the module itself, which I always like to take note of this, maybe take a picture or something of that nature, just so you have access to this information later. As you can see, it does give us some additional details, like the VIN number that was written to this module, the software version, and also the part number, so just some useful information to have. Once we're inside the module, we do have a number of different options, including advanced version identification information, module information, and if we scroll down here, identification services. Those three are used for additional data on the module itself and the software in the module. So if you need anything related to those are the three menus you want to look at on a VW or Audi. You do also have a number of other menu options, some of which will be found on all vehicles. Others may be limited depending on the year, make, and model. Read DTCs you will find on all vehicles. Clear fault codes also found on all vehicles. Read data stream, you should find that on all vehicles. Read freeze frame, that will happen only if there is freeze frame data available. The menu may be there, but whether or not you receive any data once you tap on it is going to be dependent on what code is stored and whether or not freeze frame data has been stored. Actuation test allows you bidirectional control of components for testing purposes. So if you want to turn something on or off to make sure it's working correctly, you can use the actuation test. Adaptation and basic settings are something that you're going to use typically for part replacement or battery disconnection on Volkswagen Audi. You'll want to check the service information for when to use them and how to use them. But again, this is where you have access to those two things. Access permission is when you need to log into the module for protected functions, and you will need a password to do that, which is where the online secure login comes in. Online secure login will pull the password for the module and give you the possible passwords, which you can write down or take a picture of, and then you can go into access permission to unlock the module and provide access to adaptations and basic settings that might otherwise be locked out. Coding 2 is for turning on and off cruise control. We're going to go back here because we're not going to manipulate that. And coding module is basically for coding the module. Now, you do not necessarily need to use those menu options when you are doing some of these functions. I will demonstrate there is another way to access those functions that is a little bit easier. Readiness allows you to see the readiness status of the OBD monitors. And you can see right here, anything that has been tested and completed, it will tell us right there. So now we'll go to data stream. And now on Volkswagen Audi, you have access to two methods. You can go to the old school method where it is channel numbers. So if we want to put in a channel number and we know the channel numbers, we can enter those like this. Can also go up and down in the channels by tapping on these little buttons here, which is a nice feature. And we can also go and look at a master list. Now the master list, you can either scroll through it like this, and it's a pretty long list, or you can also tap in the top right here and you can search keywords. Now remember, each manufacturer may call certain things different terms. And when they use different terms, you might search for something, and if you're not using the word that they used, you might miss it. So it's important to remember that. You may have to scroll through all of the data PIDs to find what you're looking for, but you do have access to a number of data PIDs as we can see here. So now we're going to go back, and we're going to exit out of the health report. So we're back on this main screen, and if we wanted to go in and selectively talk to one of the modules, we could go into system selection. Now, special function, where you're going to find a lot of different common features. So this is similar to the maintenance or resets menu that we came to from the main screen. So you'll see there's a lot of different possible things here. This is a shortcut menu for a lot of those. We're actually going to cancel this because we're not trying to do this. I bumped it by accident. But we can see here there's a number of different basic resets in here that perhaps you might perform on a given situation. So that would be their special function menu, and that's typically going to be found on most vehicles. And what's in that menu is going to vary by vehicle, whether or not it applies based on the year, make, and model. Online function. This is something that's really helpful, especially for Volkswagen. Online coding is something that you might run into. Maybe you've put a module in and you need to recode it to tell the module what its identity is. Coding basically tells the module to turn on or off specific features, or if it is in a specific vehicle. So if you put an ECM in a Volkswagen, it needs to know which transmission is in the vehicle, whether or not it's an automatic or manual. Those kind of things are controlled by coding. And online coding is a great feature because this will allow you to pull the original code from the internet. So we'll go in here and we'll go to Engine Electronics. And it's going to download the code from the internet. So you do need to make sure you're connected to the internet with the tool. We can see that the original code is listed here. The current code is here. And the possible code listed for this vehicle application is right here. Sometimes you're going to have a lot more options than this. But it looks like in this particular case, it's really only one option. So if we do want to code it, we can tap any of the three. They're all the same, so it doesn't matter. If we tap it, it will automatically redo it, or we can erase it and then type it in ourselves if we wish. So now we're going to go back. We don't have any fault codes because we didn't do anything. And that is one of the greatest features about this tool, is that you do have that online function for coding on Volkswagen and Audi. So after covering online functions, we're going to go through guided functions quickly here. When you're on this main screen here, guided functions allows you to walk through with your hand being held on a number of different functions that you'll find you have to do on these Volkswagen and Audi vehicles. So we'll show you an example here. It does ask you to identify the vehicle further, so you have to tell it which engine. Now once we're into the guided functions menu, you'll see you have some other options here across the top banner. So we've got display setting, which basically just lets you see all the different possible configuration items that the vehicle could have, and also what it currently has configured. Fault list, if you have any faults that you've already read out. Vehicle detection just lets you pull the fault codes. Special function just has some miscellaneous things. You definitely want to check that menu if you're looking for something specific. And then system list, that's where you're going to go to your guided functions. So we're going to go into transmission electronics and we're going to look at an example. So we hit guided functions. Now we got to tell it which transmission the vehicle has. Going to hit OK. And we're going to click on the check ATF level. So this is a good illustration of what the guided functions do on the tool. So guided function will actually hold your hand through a given process and walk you through with the specific steps you need to fulfill in order to complete the function. So we're going to say yes, we would like to check the transmission fluid level. So it warns us that the engine cannot be running until you've added fluid to the transmission, otherwise you can damage the transmission. Then it tells us we need to have it in park. The vehicle needs to be level. There can be no faults that would cause limp home mode, and the ATF temperature should be 35 degrees Celsius. Have the test requirements been met? We're going to lie to it and say yes. You can see that the oil temperature is too high. It's 46 degrees Celsius currently, so that is actually too high to check the level. So we will not be able to check the level right now. However, you can see that it gave us all of the thresholds and the information we needed in order to be able to walk through this process and procedure correctly. So you'll find the guided functions is extremely useful when you're working on Volkswagen and Audi, and this will help you complete those procedures where you won't have to go looking around on the internet and searching and whatnot. The tool will walk you through it in most cases, and you will have a much easier time completing those functions. So now, we're going to go back out here to the main page. And we're back on the main page. So the last function that we want to show you is the scan function. Scan function allows you to manually identify the vehicle by year, make, and model. So if maybe you're working on an early 2000s vehicle or older than that, occasionally the VIN number will not automatically identify the vehicle. Now, if it has a barcode, you can use VIN scan and click on the camera scan to pull that barcode VIN. You can also type in the VIN manually. Otherwise, you can also manually type in year, make, and model through here. The other option you do have access to here is the OBD2. OBD2 is extremely useful for diagnostic purposes as it displays data in a more standardized format. So you don't have to look at it in the manufacturer's specific format when we're talking about the engine control unit. So this is very helpful for things like fuel trim related diagnostics, anything related to pressure diagnostics in terms of like manifold pressure, things of that nature. It will display them in a standardized format. You also do see which readiness monitors have been completed from the main scan screen. So we can see here we've got your normal OBD2 menu. So we have read vehicle information, controlling onboard components, test results, so mode 6, so that would be misfire monitors and things of that nature, clearing fault codes, reading fault codes, reading freeze frame data that has been stored, and then also we've got live data and monitor readiness. So we're going to go into live data here. And now we can see all the data PIDs that are supported on OBD2 mode. Now you realize in OBD2 mode it's usually a much shorter list, but a lot of these are still tremendously valuable for drivability diagnostics, right? So especially when we're talking about fuel trims, and oftentimes the other ones I see that people get tripped up on would be manifold pressure and barometric pressure. So those are two other PIDs that I see a lot of people struggle with when doing diagnostics because of the way that each manufacturer will display them. Now, and you go into OBD2 mode, and typically speaking, they're going to be displayed in a standardized format like this, not the manufacturer's format. So here we get a normal short-term and long-term trim percentage, and we get manifold pressure and barometric pressure displayed in a normalized PSI format. Whether you're working on a GM or a Volkswagen, they're going to generally be displayed exactly the same, which I find very useful and easier to process when you're doing a diagnosis. So, with the data stream, we have all the same things that we would on the manufacturer-specific mode. So you have your graphing available there. You can combine graphing. You can record things. You can do a report. If you do a report, it does just take a snapshot of the data right then and there when you hit the button. Graphing obviously is another way to get to the graphing function, and then you can save a sample or compare to a previous sample. Now, one other thing you can do, if you swipe from the top of the screen down, you do have some additional menu things here. So we've got screen record, which is the little video camera, so we can do that and then tap on the little play button to start recording the screen. We can do the little clipboard with the scissors. That will actually bring up a little camera icon, which allows us to take a screenshot anytime we tap that camera icon. The camera icon will actually allow you to use the camera on the back side of the tool to take pictures of things for documentation purposes or whatever you want to do. The little orientation button there allows you to change the screen orientation if you want, and then you do have access to sliders for both brightness of the screen and volume of the tool itself. Now remember, on brightness, higher brightness does in fact shorten the battery life. So you keep your brightness down a little bit, it'll make the life of the battery on the tool longer, and these do seem to have a very long life battery in them for when you're working on stuff. And then, to go back, you just swipe that away, and then if you want to go back on your menu, you just swipe the screen like this from the side. You can swipe it from either side, and that takes us back out to the main screen. And the only other thing we hadn't covered yet was the Google Chrome shortcut, which just allows you to go directly to the Google Chrome browser. So, I'm Hawken, and I appreciate you watching our TOPDON Phoenix Lite 2 walkthrough video. If you do have additional questions, feel free to contact us at topdon.us. We do have our support phone number as well as a link to send us a support request. If you are outside of the US or Canada, please use topdon.com for support requests. We appreciate you watching this video, and we hope you'll follow us and watch all of our videos on our YouTube channel.